All right, we are going to get into Keystone and the back end of things. And in order to do that, we first need a database, because Keystone, when we create all of our items and our schemas and saving products to the database and uploading images, all that data gets saved into a database. Now, Keystone is a layer that sort of sits on top of a number of different databases. You can use MongoDB, you can use Postgres, or you can use Prisma. Now, we're going to be using MongoDB. MongoDB is one of my favorite databases. You'll hear people say they love it or they hate it and it's amazing or it's awful and slow. And I've been using MongoDB for many years. I run my own course platform on it, and I'm a big fan of it. So we are getting into that. Now, if you know how to install MongoDB and you know how to make a new database, you can skip this video. This video is for people who don't necessarily haven't made a database before. So we have two options for a database. We could either run MongoDB locally on our computer, and the benefit of that is it's super fast. You can if you have like a slow network connection, or you're doing this tutorial on an airplane or something like that, then you'll be able to do most of it without having an internet connection. The downside to that is it can be a little bit difficult to get MongoDB installed on your specific computer. So if we take a look at the MongoDB documentation, they have some ways to get it installed on Windows. Actually, the Windows is not too bad. And installing it on Mac OS. And that's usually what I'll do is I run MongoDB in a tab, and that will start it and sort of run it in the background. The other way, and what I'm going to recommend, so if you want to go down the route of installing it locally in your computer, you can follow these instructions to get it up and running. It's really not too bad. However, the better way is to use MongoDB Atlas, and this is a hosted service that has a very generous free tier. And what I like about it is that it's from MongoDB themselves. They give you a whole layer of like really nice UI and reporting and analytics on top of your database. And when it comes time to deploy this sucker to the internet, you're gonna have to run it on a public database somewhere. And I use MongoDB myself. On MongoDB Atlas. So it's really good. So what I want you to do is go ahead and start sign up for an account on MongoDB Atlas. And I'm going to go through all the steps on setting it up for you. If you've watched some of my other tutorials, which we use MLab, the process is a little bit more involved. So that's why I'm going to record this. So once you're signed into your thing, you're going to want to make a new organization for what you want. And I'm saying this because you don't want to mix like production data or if you ever want to share this with a friend, just make a new organization and get it nice and clean from the start. So if you just created a brand new account, you probably can use whatever organization that you have, but I'm going to create a brand new one here. And I'm going to call it sickfits.org. We want MongoDB Atlas, and add a member. Permissions. Okay, so this is me. I've got I'm the organization owner. You can also add additional people. In my case, I don't need that, so I'm going to create the organization. Okay, so now we create an organization. That's not a database yet. That's just like a governing body over our database. Now we want to make a new project, which I find very confusing, but the word project is a database. So create a new project. We're going to call it Sick Fits. Click on next. And do we want to add more people to it? No. Create the project. Then once we're in there, we need to create a cluster. Click on build a cluster. We want to go for the shared free cluster. This is just it's extremely cheap when you get into running them, but we just want the free one. So create that. This is kind of cool. It asks you where do you want to put your data. So in our case, I'm going to go AWS on US East 1. That's the one that always goes down, that most of the internet is hosted on. Cluster tier, we are on the Sandbox, which is free forever, and it doesn't give you any backup. MongoDB version that you want it probably doesn't matter which version you want. If they set that as the default, then just go with that. And then finally, cluster name. Let's call it sick cluster. I'm sure you can think of some other fun names for a cluster. So go ahead and create it. Now this will take, I don't know, a couple minutes or so. While that is going on, let's open up our Keystone backend and get to configuring this database. So I'm going to open up my terminal here, and I'm going to go to our sickfits directory, and I'm going to go into the backend folder. If you haven't already, npm install in this directory, but you should have done that earlier. And then I'm going to just open up that in another VS Code window, and you see that it is pink at the top, so that it shows us that this is our backend. Now, in order to get going on the backend, we need to put all of the information about connecting to our database somewhere safe, because if you just put the connection strings and the passwords and the usernames and all that information, if you just put that in like a JavaScript file, then what ends up happening is that data goes into your version control, and it's not good to have that sort of secret data in there. So we need to put it in a .env file, and the .env file does not go into your version control. It is just for local development. And then when we deploy, we'll figure out how to replicate all of these. These are called environmental variables in there. So this is a sample file of all the environmental variables that we will be using in here. What I want you to do is and this is super important, we need to rename this, okay? This is, a lot of people always get tripped up on this part in my courses. You got to rename it. Don't leave it as sample.env. You want to rename it to just .env, okay? Now let's go through it. Cloudinary, that's for image uploading. We'll get that. To cookie secret, go ahead and change this to literally anything. Literally anything. This just has to be a random string, because when we sign our cookies and when we generate them, they are based on this, what is in here. So don't do what I did. Do something, literally any other string of characters in the human race. Do that. Database URL. Okay, so this is where we're going to put the MongoDB URL once we get it. Stripe, that's for checkout. We don't need that. Email. We'll hit that, and then finally front end URL. That's important. So what are we running? What are we running our front end URL? 777. So that's right. So if you're running on a different port or whatever, you would change that URL right there. Okay. Looks like it's still being created. So while we're doing that, let's open up MongoDB Compass. That's an app I've had you installed. And this is just a nice little tool that's going to allow us to connect. Watch, I'm going to connect to my local database right now. I've got all kinds of databases in here. Let's see. The one that we're working with is called sickfits Keystone. And you'll see that the items are in here. If I open that up, look at this is just all the data in our database. You can view it as a table as well. And if you ever, for whatever reason, if the backend ever breaks or you just want to manually add or delete data, you can do that. This is just a raw database access. This is a really nice little database GUI, and big fan of that. Okay, so it has created our cluster. Now what we need to do is we need to connect to it. So we're going to go ahead and click on connect. And it's going to ask us, where do you want to be able to connect to this database for? Because by default, MongoDB will only allow connection from specific IPs that you allow it to. So normally what would happen is you would add like IP address from your work machine. You would add the IP addresses of the server that you're hosting your application on, et cetera, et cetera. And that just stops any malicious actors who are trying to connect from random IP addresses. When we're working for this right now, we just need to allow everybody in just so you don't get tripped up on it. Believe me, this is a common problem that we have. So we want to click on allow access from anywhere, and say, come on in, add an IP address. Good. Then we create a database user. So we will call that, let's call it sick. And the password is going to be something good. Let's just use 1Password suggested one right here. I'm going to call that MongoDB sick fits, and I'll save that. Okay, so save that data just for a second. I'm going to copy it. And I'm just going to put that in a URL. Obviously, I'm going to have to change this before I deploy this course so you don't see it. So put those in somewhere where you won't lose them just for a quick second. And we click Create Database User. Okay. And then we need to choose a connection method. So we need a connection string. So which one? In the Mongo shell, connect your application, or connect using MongoDB Compass. I think it's connect your application. Yes, there we go. And then it's going to give us this URL right here. So what we'll do is we'll copy that URL. We'll go back to our .env, and we will paste that into the database URL. Then what we need to do is we need to change the username and the password. Looks like they've already pre-populated the username, and then the password that I have here, we need to pop that in. Don't keep the angle brackets get deleted along with the word password, so don't leave them in, and then paste that in there. The way that we can test if that has worked is we can go to our MongoDB Compass, and I'm going to connect to a new connection, paste that in there. Oh, we forgot one more thing. The database name, we forgot to replace that. So let's do that real quick. We'll name that sick fits. That's not something we've specified yet, so that is fine. So again, let's paste that in there, connect. And there we go. So it has connected to our database. There's obviously nothing in there yet, but that just shows that we have correctly connected to the database. And also we've put this into our .env file. So let's close up here, close, and we have our cluster. You can click through to that, and we'll be able to see our data in here. And all the other information. The one I really like is the Performance Advisor. I don't think it comes with it for free. I pay for it on my own. Yeah, you got to upgrade for that. But I love it because it will tell me when some sort of thing I'm doing is slow, and it will tell you how to fix it, which is really cool. In Keystone, they do most of the database stuff under the hood for you, so you likely won't hit those issues. But overall, it's nice to have. So that's connecting to MongoDB. Let's move into the next video where we actually configure Keystone to hook up to this database.